as Claire just said, the future of the NHS hangs in the balance at this general election on Thursday the 7th of May. The fight for the NHS is here and it is now. And it's now that we need to get out there and win this fight. And we have to have Rupert Hook in Parliament in a few days' time if we are going to repeal the Health and Social Care Act. We can't do it. We just cannot do it unless she is there with Steve, with me, walking through the lobbies of the House of Commons in a few days' time. So if we can't get her into Parliament, we can't do it. And that's what I wanted to get over to you all this evening. I'm absolutely thrilled that we've got somebody of this fight and spirit. I've watched the video actually. I don't know if you've got it. Yeah. Don't bother getting Pacquiao Mayweather later on pay-per-view. Just go on and watch this. The way she fought off Boris's henchman there, a proper fighter. So Rupert, it's fantastic to be with you this evening. I just want to pay a couple of other tributes, if I may, while I'm in the room. Steve and his wonderful agent Miriam as well, who are here this evening. Fantastic fighter for the NHS in Parliament. I want to say, I know we've got people who've been campaigning for the NHS across West London, in Hammersmith, out here to Ealing as well, and the campaign you've led has been inspirational, to be honest. Fantastic campaign. We've got somebody who walked 300 miles for the National Health Service from Jarrow to Trafalgar Square. An incredible, I mean, look at that. I mean, if that doesn't give you some inspiration.
Yes.
On behalf of all of you, I want to say a huge thanks to Jo Brand for giving up her Saturday night, for being here tonight, for making us laugh, absolutely, but also for getting over to us what is at stake here. As Jo said, she said it when we had a rally at Westminster Central Hall, she said it again tonight, not here soon. That's it, isn't it? That is it. That is the challenge. Just think about this when you're on the doorsteps over the next few days. Since the bill that they put through has come into force, we have 40% of NHS contracts now going to the private sector. 40%. That is the same number that is being won by the public NHS. Public NHS is winning 41%. Think about that and what that means. Think about what it means on Friday the 8th of May if they're still in force and their Health and Social Care Act is going to be in force for 5 more years. Think about what that will mean for the future of the National Health Service. 5 more years of cuts. 5 more years of closures here in West London but across the country. 5 more years of fragmentation. 5 more years of privatisation. The NHS cannot afford 5 more years of David Cameron. We have to get him out, as Siobhan said, if we are going to restore the NHS and put the right values back at its heart. I mean, look at Cameron. He likes to blame everybody for all the problems done. There's always somebody else's problem. But when it comes to the NHS and Mr. Cameron, he hasn't got a cleg to stand on. It is his responsibility what has happened. I've seen him in this campaign. Not even go to the debates, would he? I mean, I've always been told, that West Ham fans won't run from anything, but I've seen in this. He is a West Ham fan. Oh, maybe I don't know. That was yesterday. I mean, he can't face his own record on the NHS, and that is why Thursday, the 7th of May, 2015, is going to be Mr. Cameron's day of reckoning on the National Health Service, and everyone in this room is going to make it so. And that's the fight that we're going to have. And that is why I've gathered you all here today. We've been going across the country in the last couple of days, holding meetings like this, to mobilise people now, to get people up for this fight. I know you are, because it is now. This is the moment when we have to stand together, trade unions and Labour Party together, fighting for what we believe in. We see it across West London now. Look at what they've done. They've closed 2 A&Es. They're planning to try and close 2 more. This local trust now has never met the government's lowered A&E target of 95% of patients seen within 4 hours. The queues that Claire was so eloquently describing never met those standards. A&E is the barometer of the whole health and care system. If you look at A&E, it tells you so much about what else is going on in GP services or in social care. Your hospitals have never met the A&E target. That is telling you that your NHS is in trouble. Your NHS is at risk, and now is the time to act to protect it. You know, people here waiting weeks to get GP appointments. That cannot carry on. Cancer patients waiting longer for their treatment to start. Everywhere you look, we see an NHS in decline, and it's gone steadily downhill on their watch. And you know what awaits it if on Thursday the 7th of May, Friday the 8th of May, that they're still there? What awaits it? Even bigger cuts to social care in the first 2 years of the next Parliament. As Siobhan said, so crucial to the NHS. Imagine what that will do to the most vulnerable people in this community if there are even bigger cuts to the support they get to live day to day. What is that going to do to the most vulnerable in this society? And then beyond that, of course, the Health and Social Care Act staying in place. All NHS services are forced out onto the open market, and at least 40% of them going to the private sector. The NHS sunk by a toxic mix of cuts and privatisation. That is what awaits if they win. Now, we have to get Rupert elected, as I said, for this simple reason, so that we can stop it. We can stop the sell-off. I want to give you all a commitment this evening that within the first days of a Labour government, we will bring forward a bill to repeal the Health and Social Care Act 2012. We're already writing it. We will bring it forward in the first few days of a Labour government. I want to tell you what that bill will do so that you can answer anyone's questions or concerns on the doorstep in the next few days. You get it from me tonight so that you can give those guarantees to people on the doorsteps. It will fully exempt the NHS from EU procurement and competition law. It will put the right values back at the heart of the NHS, the values that Jo worried were being eroded, and maybe she was right to be worried about that. This bill will put that right. It will say we have an NHS based on collaboration and compassion, not competition, on integration, not fragmentation, on people, not profits. That is what our bill will do, but it will do more, and it will say that no international trade treaty can overrule the provisions of that bill, and it will explicitly say that the TTIP treaty will not be able to overrule that legislation. That is a firm commitment I give you tonight, and you can repeat it every single day up until polling day. But we need to do more than that too, and I just want to say to you, I want the NHS to be even better. I want to give a vision for what it might be, and what it can be in the 21st century. I believe it is time for the party that created the NHS in the last century to reset it for this. And I want that to be as a national health and care service, bringing social care into the NHS exactly as Siobhan describes. And that is what we will do by repealing the market, by getting rid of competition. We will give the NHS the permission to integrate, to collaborate, to merge across traditional boundaries between secondary and primary care, mental health and physical health, but crucially between the NHS and social care. And do you know what we're going to do? We're going to ask the NHS to lift up social care and apply NHS standards into social care, because isn't that a change whose time has most definitely come? You know, we're going to get rid of the 15-minute visits in people's homes. We're going to ban those 0 hours contracts that far too many young people in this country are being asked to work on while they're caring for vulnerable people. I ask you all this: how can anybody who doesn't have basic security in their own life about the hours they're being asked to work and the money they might make from one week to the next, how can anybody without that basic security pass on a sense of security to the vulnerable person in their care? It's not going to happen, is it? And how much longer as a society are we prepared to send out the message to those young people that looking after someone else's mum, dad, brother, sister is the lowest form of work? Lower than the national minimum wage because you don't get the travel time paid between the 15-minute visits. Well, we've got to stop that, haven't we? And who's going to stop that? The Labour Party's going to stop that. We are going to restore the values of the National Health Service, but more than that, we're going to build them out into social care and create a national health and care service. This is a bigger vision for how things can be. A service that starts in the home and looks after people there and makes the best use of the money, as Siobhan says. One team around the person, not ringing the council for this, the NHS for that. There's frustration of telling the same story to everybody they meet. Just one person to call. A care plan for you and your carers. This is the vision that we will be building once we repeal that act. And I hope you can get a feeling here tonight that this is a vision that is not just worth voting for, that's worth campaigning for in the days that we've got left. Because it should be about a health service in the 21st century that aspires to support people with dementia and autism as well as it treats cancer. That should be the goal of the Labour Party, shouldn't it, as we look ahead to the 21st century. An NHS for the ageing society that's able to deal with all of one person's needs, physical, mental and social. I want you to feel that that vision is a Labour vision that you can get behind. That's what I've tried to do. I've called time on this market experiment in the NHS. It's time to do that. Let's get Labour values back to the heart of the NHS, and let's have a health policy that you can feel proud of, that you now from this room tonight can go out and campaign for. And that's my ask of you all this evening. It is so serious. This fight is so important. If you want an NHS that's there for your children and your grandchildren in the way that it's been there for you, then we now have to get out there and fight. And I'm going to ask all of you to speak to at least 10 people over the next 5 days, people who you know may still be undecided. And I want you to explain to them what I've said to you tonight, how the NHS has gone downhill on this government's watch, how 40% of NHS services are now going out to the private sector, how the fragmentation, the privatisation is real. And if we let them carry on, they will break this thing apart to the point where it will never be able to be put back together again. The NHS is at breaking point. If they get back in, it will be broken. Let's not let it happen. And that's the ask that I ask of you all this evening, to pass that word on, to get that message out, to get Rupa elected on Thursday so that she can be walking through the lobbies of the House of Commons, repealing the Health and Social Care Act before the summer recess. How proud will you all feel if that happens, if we achieve that? That will be the best thing that we can do. Service that our party could give to Siobhan and her colleagues, who at the moment, she said it, can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, are beginning to wonder, is it all worth it? Does anybody really care? Well, we do, don't we? We care. And we're going to do one thing, give them one thing that's in short supply at the moment in the NHS. We're going to give them hope. Hope that somebody does care. Hope that there's a party out there that does understand. Hope that there's a party that is prepared to fight for the things that it believes in. The great Nye Bevan said, there will be an NHS for as long as there are folk with the faith to fight for it. I look around this room tonight, I see people of faith, but now is the time to show the fight. Now is the time to get out there and fight on every single doorstep in this constituency. You need to tell people that nobody gave Angie Bray or David Cameron their permission to put the NHS up for sale at the last election. Not one voter in this constituency gave them that permission. They just went and did it anyway. So as I say, Thursday the 7th of May, David Cameron's day of reckoning on the NHS. So let's get that fight together now. We've got the faith. Let's get the fight going. Let's go out there and win for the future of our National Health Service. Thank you for listening.